Welcome everybody to our first episode of MAGA Monday. Welcome back if you're new here. Hi, my name is Ava Slinkard. I make all kinds of content, but today specifically is MAGA Monday, where we talk all things politics. So without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, if you've watched my shorts, you know that today's topic is gun control. I pull it out of the MAGA hat every single week, and that's what I chose, so I'm very excited for that. And just to start things off, I do have show notes and my phone because unlike Joe Biden, I do not have a teleprompter that has the words of everything that I need to say. So I just have notes to guide me along and to keep me on topic. So first of all, to define what gun control is a set of laws and regulations that limit the ownership, use, and sale of firearms. The goal of gun control is to reduce gun-related violence and death. Okay, that is the definition of what gun control is. That's literally just what you put into Google. That's just what it is in paper. So when it comes to the stats of gun control, there is one very important number that we have to remember, and that is over 48,204 people died in the U.S. from quote-unquote firearms. And that sounds like a terrible number. That is one death every 11 minutes, and that is terrible. That's awful. But liberals will use that a lot and say, well, this many people died from guns, so we should just ban all guns. But they don't break down those statistics farther. Because if you break down the statistics farther, you would see that the two main numbers of that percentage the two main parts that make up that percentage is either suicide or homicide. And I think something that we can all agree on with suicide and homicide, that if someone was suicidal and they had access to a gun, okay, they could use a gun to kill themselves. But if they had access to medication or to a cliff, they would use other means to kill themselves. Now, suicide is a terrible thing, obviously, but it's not solely caused by guns. Guns are a form that some people choose to take their lives, but I think we can all agree that if someone was truly suicidal and truly wanted to commit suicide, that they could do it without a firearm. And that goes the same for homicide. Homicide can be done with a gun, but it can also be done in other ways. And if someone truly was like a homicidal maniac and they truly wanted to kill somebody, then they didn't have a gun, they could still fulfill that goal of killing somebody. So that's something we can't just use that statistic as a blanket statement. We do have to break it down and look at it farther and not just take it at a surface level. I think that's why we have a lot of people who are quote-unquote leftists or lean more toward liberals, because they just look at what the news is saying, what the media is saying, what their favorite actor or singer believes, and they just take that for what it is, and they actually don't investigate further on, and they don't think on it for themselves. So I think that's a lot of reasons why we have people in our generation who lean towards the left, is because they are just taking people for their word and not creating their own thoughts and their own opinions. Another thing I want to talk about is school shootings. School shootings are terrible. They're awful. They are so sad. It's just so disheartening when you hear about a school shooting. You hear about innocent people losing their lives. And yes, they do happen from firearms. But when you look at it, you kind of have to fight fire with fire. I'm just going to put an image in your mind. Someone comes to a school and kills 6 people, right? And police show up. But because we put gun laws in place, those police do not have firearms. They have batons and knives. And now they're going to have to get close enough to the perpetrator to be able to arrest him, whereas the perpetrator has a gun. Here's the thing. Gun violence is all about trying to put laws in place where firearms will be greatly prohibited or even not allowed. But the same thing has been happening with drugs. We put laws against the drug use, but people still die from drug overdoses every single day, because it comes down to the bottom line that bad people will still break the law. And just because we make laws illegal doesn't mean that'll stop the bad people from getting those guns. It comes down to we all have a free will. Every day we wake up and we choose what we are going to do with our lives. We're either going to be a good person or we're going to be a bad person. And we're either going to use a firearm to protect ourselves or to hurt innocent people. And it's a choice that you have to make, and it's a choice you have to live with, and you have to pay your own consequences for. And if we put a law to ban those firearms, to ban those guns, we are then stripping the good people and the police officers and the military of their means of protecting themselves and others for the greater good. And that is a really big issue. Gun violence, they always say, let's just make a law to ban it. Well, just because you ban something doesn't mean that the problem is going to go away. For instance, if a school puts up a sign that says this is a gun-free zone, I mean, it's a sign. It's not really going to do much. But if the school has security guards, it has metal detectors, it has armed security guards, armed teachers possibly, it is going to be way more protected than a school that just has a sign up that says this is a gun-free zone. Another thing it comes down to is firearms a right or a privilege. Now, if you ask the left, they will say, most of them will say it is a privilege. They'll say, the big, bad, scary white men who are rich enough to afford guns and firearms, well, they're the ones who shoot up the schools and do all those bad things, which we're not even going to talk about how one school was shot up by a African-American black male and got no news coverage whatsoever, or how the school shooting in Nashville, Tennessee was shot up by a woman named Audrey Hale, who I publicly identified as a male, and guess what? She's dead now because police officers shot her after she shot 6 people. They fought fire with fire. That's all I'm saying. Why are we trying to take away firearms from the good people while reinstating it towards the bad people? I mean, guns get trafficked into the U.S. all the time with drugs. They come in illegally. But it still happens. It's still going on. And so if we try and take those guns away from people, we have no means of protection. So gun rights, it's a right. It is not a privilege. It is a right. It is the Second Amendment right. Why do we have the Second Amendment right? We have that Second Amendment right. It was put in the Constitution because during that time, the British Army was coming in and was unfairly abusing their power, was forcing themselves in the homes of the colonists. They're making them stay with them, making them give supplies and food and shelter. And they knew that they needed to rebel against this tyranny. And they knew that they had to do it with a musket, with a rifle. They knew that they had to push back with the same amount of power. And so they gave us the Second Amendment to protect our rights as civilians, as human beings. And they put forth the Second Amendment to fight a tyrannical government. Because, heaven forbid the U.S. government ever becomes tyrannical, we still need the ability to be able to protect ourselves. I mean, that comes a lot with the Civil War. You ask people what the Civil War was about, and they'll say slavery. Then that is not true. Slavery was a part, and I'm not saying that I thought slavery was good. I think slavery is terrible, awful. It is just an awful act, and it was such a bad time during our history, but it was also an important time during our history because the Civil War was not about slavery. It was about states' rights and civilians' rights and how they should be represented in the United States as a whole, that it shouldn't just be one or a few heavy powers representing everybody, but the people should have a choice. The people should have a voice. We see this with the votes, obviously. We have our own vote. We're able to play a hand in government. Same thing, reason why I believe Texas is able to, if they desired, be able to leave the Union and become their own country. It's like deep in their constitution, I believe. And I believe they're the only state that can do that. It is just them maintaining their own right as a people and as a state. And that's, in the end, that's what the Second Amendment is. It's giving people right to have control over their lives and over their freedom and over their liberty. In the end, gun control is not good because it will be stripping firearms from the people who want to protect and serve this country. When you ask a liberal what a firearm is, most of the time they will say it is a weapon used to kill people, when in reality it is a weapon used to protect yourself and the things that you love. And you have a free will, and you must choose whether or not you will use that for good or for bad, and you will pay the consequences for either. Alright, I hope you liked that video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. And keep your eyes on my shorts, because I will be posting the new topic for next week's MAGA Monday soon. Alright, y'all be safe, think for yourself, and make good choices. Bye!